Well, hello everybody. I'm here. We have a special guest this evening. His name is Brock Ganeles, and I was fortunate enough to find him through the algorithm gods. Led me to his stream, and we've kind of built up a small rapport, a little rapport here, and so I'm really excited to bring him on. I'm going to bring him on really quick here and let him introduce himself to everybody and tell him about what his mission is with his stream that he's on. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring Brock to the stage.
All right. Good evening, Patty. Am I on?
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're on. We can hear you.
Fantastic. Huh? Well, I appreciate the invite this evening, Patty.
I'm thrilled to have you. I really am. I think this might be a great collaboration we've got going.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I think by way of background, as you said, you want me to just say a couple of things. I am a part of a podcast myself that's called Two Men in Black and White, an Honest Conversation. So we're on YouTube. It starts with the number 2 Men in Black and White, and also on Apple and Spotify now as of like a week ago. And the thesis or the reason for being of the podcast that me and Mark Hayes, my cohort on that, the black man of the Two Men in Black and White, my cohort on that podcast, we were old friends from high school teammates in sports, and we've been friends for inching up on 50 years now. And he had called me a couple weeks after the Trump inauguration, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And he was just frustrated by what he was seeing already. He knew what was coming because we'd already seen Trump 1.0. He said, "Hey, let's hop on a Zoom call." And we talked for like 90 minutes. And he said, "Hey, you want to talk again tomorrow?" And then he started taping the calls and said, "Hey, I'm going to post this." And that's how we started our podcast. And then what we've evolved to and what we've tried, our value add, hopefully, is to actually have a conversation between a black man and a white man. And because obviously we see the world through different eyes, we've had different life experiences. So we talk a lot about politics and society and our differing viewpoints on how, in essence, how events, are hitting us, so to speak, and hitting our communities. And from that, E-Dubs found us and invited me on. So I appreciate it. And, I'd love to contribute to the conversation, hopefully. I am a progressive. I live in 2 hours north of New York City. I joke that I'm left of Elizabeth Warren. So if you, kind of get a sense of where I'm coming from, that's kind of sort of my viewpoint.
Now lie down.
That's all. That's all I got, Patty. I mean, I can go on, but I don't think your viewers need too much background on me.
No, that was great. I'm over here trying to deal with my doggo. She's picked this time when we started the stream to decide that she needed something. And I'm trying to tell her, no, not now. No, she went away. Yay.
The beauty of live streaming, right? You can only control so much.
Yeah. So I found you and started watching your streams about, 3 weeks ago? And I felt that maybe you guys needed a woman's perspective. And
we do. You're going to come on my show. You're going to come on our show next. We definitely need a woman's perspective.
Well, I'm more.
My wife tells me all the time, you two mansplainers, you need a woman on there.
Well, we gotta get your partner on board with it and see how it goes. I'm more than happy to do it. And I won't smoke if he doesn't want me to. Uh yeah, so the subject for tonight is this religious commission. What's it called? God, I read it's like 20,000 times today. Uh and how it varies from what we've had in the past, and where it's going, and then how it all connects with the project 2025. And I didn't send you the link on that, but I think you know a lot of that. So I didn't send you another link because I thought I'd overloaded you, and I found that later in the day.
No, from what you sent over with, I mean, I hadn't even heard of this commission. So you sent me that link. I didn't realize that Trump was, I know he was pandering to the Christian nationalists, but I didn't realize he caught, had really made a committee out of it. And they were, looking to enact policy,
Uh,
via Project
well,
2025.
apparently they
And
formed that
yeah,
commission back in May, and nobody really heard about it. But you can actually go on YouTube now and find the actual meetings from the first one forward. And they're supposed to end this commission by the 4th of July, but Trump reserves the right to extend its timeline. So I didn't really want to get into it till we had some more chatters coming, but we'll start and try to catch him up. I'll do some of the backup work on it. Let's see, share screen. Yeah, the Commission for Religious Freedom. That's what it's called. We're going to add that.
well, I mean, Trump and his administration just deluge us with so much noise that I'll admit I was one of those people in May who didn't even see this commission had been formed, and literally this had
Yeah.
passed me by.
Oh, what did I do? Go back. There we go. Hang on a minute. We got Kimchi in the house. She's one of my regular chatters. And Kimchi, meet my guest. You missed his introduction, but we'll fill you in. Okay, so the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedoms, the USCIRF, is an independent, bipartisan federal legislative branch agency focused exclusively on monitoring, reporting, and advising on religious freedoms violations abroad. Conversely, the Commission of Religious Freedoms, established in 2025 by executive order by Trump, uh, it's dealing with religious freedoms within our own state, our own country. And so that's a brief, very brief definition of what they're doing. So this is a brand new commission that they started, and it didn't get, it was one of those executive orders that flew by the window, and I think a lot of people missed it. And then just recently, it just started coming into light. So I'm still in the process. It's really painful to go watch these hearings. I've got to tell you, you just want to scream. I'll remove that from stage and stop that screen. Makes you just want to scream just listening to this guys. The people on this commission are people some you know, like I think Pam Bondi's on it in some sort of supposed legal way, but we can. I wanted to look at these reports real briefly of the um, United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, and this has been established. Let's see here. I'll add that to the stream now. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about this. Juggling. Come on now. Okay. This is just a little background about this commission. And it's been in existence for, I think back in 98 is what I read, but don't hold me to that. This one is a report from 2011 to 2012, back in Obama's era, and it basically tells you which countries are of particular concern, the CPCs, and it lists them. Then it goes down to the watch list, the CWL, and it lists the countries that are on a watch list that may be uh, skirting people's freedoms of religion, and other countries issued. Let's see. I wanted to scroll down to something I found in here. Oh yes, it was started in 1998. I was right about that. Um, the reporting ends in the year, but the report doesn't come out till the following year. So that was kind of confusing to me, because I was reading something about in 2025, they were saying that they needed to send money to USAID, and I'm like, wait a minute, USAID was already gone by then. So I figured it out. That's because 2025's report that came out was from 2024, when we still had USAID. Uh, Now here is a breakdown. The CPCs, countries of particular concern. Uh, there's a list of them there, and then the watch list. So you see kind of how that works. I wanted to scroll down to one other thing that I just saw, but we're not going to cover a lot on this. I just wanted to get an idea of what we had going. I'm not finding what I wanted, and maybe I'm on the wrong. I don't want to go into the older um, recommendations they make, and these are recommendations. They're not. They make recommendations to the country, to our government officials, and then they can either take them up or not. But I think they've had pretty good success with that in the past. Oh, I can't find this thing. I might be in the wrong place. Let me scroll on a little faster. Okay. I'm going to give that up. I think we've kind of explained that anyway to the extent that it needs to be. Hello, Steve. Thanks for dropping in. Um, let's remove that one.
Well, you can see right from that, right, that you can see that there was there was an initial premise that you could argue had good intentions, right? It's just like when America was fighting for democracy around the world, that we would be looking out for other freedoms, including religion, around the world, right? That could be a organization that does good things. Could be.
And exactly, and it was very bipartisan and very stuck on the idea that it included all religions, and if religions were being um, abused or harmed in any way abroad, that would get you on the list of things we needed to look at. Um, I think that what we've got going on now, I'm pretty sure that we still have that, but who's on it and how it's going, I couldn't find out right now. Um, what we've been left with or dealt with recently because of Trump's executive order back in May of last year is, let's see, I'm gonna click out of some of these. Back in May of last year was this new thing, and the establishment of the Religious Liberty Commission. Let's see if I can share that. Alrighty. We'll add that one to the screen. You can help me to describe this really well, I'm sure, by now, Brock. I'm going to just read a little bit and then we'll stop and talk about it. Okay?
Yep.
This is Trump's executive order. It says, by the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. It shall be the policy of the executive branch to vigorously enforce the historic and robust protections for religious liberty enshrined in federal law. So, that sentence right there, Brock.
We're already now blurring the line right between the separation of church and state right in that sentence. So you can see that Trump's already starting to take what may be at its base level a positive thing about promoting freedom of religion, and now he's about to twist it, right? He's about to change the definition of the term freedom of religion and and take a right turn towards
you're free to have my religion.
Yeah, Christian nation, right?
Yeah,
I think that's what comes next, right? Is the sort of the indoctrination or the quote acknowledgement that America's always been a Christian nation and needs to, and that's sort of where we're going forward. I mean, I can't. So the print's a little small for me, so you're gonna have to read a few more of the lines. But this is where it gets scary. This is where it gets scary to me. This is where, in my opinion, it goes awry, and this is where the Christian nationalists have worked their way into Trump's policy.
It is, as we go along, it'll get scarier. So he says, the founders envisioned a nation in which religious voices and views are integral to vibrant public square and human flourishing, and in which religious people and institutions are free to practice their faith without fear of discrimination or hostility from the government. There's another mouthful of word salad.
Yeah, but at this point, it's still that seems okay, right? Okay, it's sort of an acknowledgement that America is steeped in religion, which is true, right? And it's still pointing towards freedom amongst religions, right? It hasn't necessarily veered off course yet,
Okay.
but
It
it's
says
about to.
the roots of religious liberty stretch back to the early settlers who fled religious persecution in Europe, seeking a new world where they could choose, follow, and practice their faith without interference from the government. The principle of religious liberty was enshrined in the Constitution and has protected the fundamental rights of to religious liberty as Americans' first freedom. Okay, so they're going way back into when there were just settlers.
Yeah, but in my mind, there's still the doctrine is still okay at this point, right? It's still holding to the religious freedom and freedom from persecution. There's still an impression that all religions are going to be, cherished and honored and allowed and promoted, so to speak, in America at this point in the doctrine, right? I think from here on out is where it kind of really flips into becoming much more narrow about which religions are going to be,
Exactly.
accepted here in America.
He says, goes on to say, during his first term, he issued an executive order May 4th of 2017 promoting free speech and religious liberty. Pursuant to that order, the Attorney General issued a memorandum for all executive department and agencies titled Federal Law Protections for Religious Liberty on October 6, 2017. The Supreme Court, let's see here. The Supreme Court has also continued to vindicate the founders' commitments to religious liberty, including by giving effect to the principle that religious voices should be welcomed. There we go. On an equal basis in the public square. In recent years, some federal, state, and local policies have threatened America's unique and beautiful tradition of religious liberty. These policies attempted to infringe upon long-standing conscientious protections, prevent parents from sending their children to religious schools, threaten loss of fundamental or funding or denial of nonprofit tax status for faith-based entities, and single out religious groups, institutions for exclusion from government programs. Some opponents of religious liberty would remove religion entirely from public life. Others characterize religious liberty as inconsistent with civil rights, despite religions' vital roles in the abolition. I can't talk. Abolition of slavery. The passage of federal civil lawsuits and the provision of indispensable social, education, and health services. Okay, let's just stop right there because that was a mouthful.
Well, this is where it starts to get problematic, right? Because now it's talking about religion in the public square, which I think is the way of saying, moving into government dictated decisions and or areas in life which are, community driven, like schools, yet overseen maybe by municipalities, right? And coming and funded by our tax dollars. So that gets you got into vouchers here, right? Saying that there's a freedom to send your kids to religious schools, freedom, and then is freedom being funded? And I think you can already see the argument for the 10 Commandments in schools here by saying that,
Right.
oh, religion needs to have the freedom to be in
Oh,
quote
and
public life. And once
yeah, and now
if
they
public
can
life
get
means the
vouchers.
hallway at the high school, then there's the 10 Commandments, right?
Yeah. And now they want to uh, use those vouchers for Christian schools. And, you know, in the past, if you could afford to go to a private Christian school, usually it fell on the parents to pay for it, as well it should, because, you know, people that do that usually can afford it. And it's taking away money from the private or from the public schools. These vouchers are. So it would be detrimental to public education for sure.
Yeah, it's siphoning the funds, right, towards, particularly religious schools. And it leads to even more segregation in society, which is something we talk about in our podcast all the time in terms of race. And now the Trump movement is trying to push us in that direction on religion as well to get even more siloed.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on. Uh, he cites President Ronald Reagan, reminding us freedom is never more than one generation from extinction. America needs to be reacquainted with our nation's superb experiment in religious freedom in order to preserve it against emerging threats. Therefore, the federal government will promote citizens' pride in our foundational history, identify emerging threats at religious liberty, uphold federal laws that protect all citizens, full partition in a pluralistic democracy, and protect the free exercise of religion. So if you look back, they were teeing this up back in Reagan days, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
and
this has been a multi-decade effort, right? Trump has just accelerated everything. Although, once again, the language in that paragraph, is pretty benign, right? We know what they're getting at, but they're saying it in a very vanilla way and
yeah,
cloaking it underneath the heading of freedoms yet again, right? So
yes,
it gets a little more explicit once they start discussing the fact of which religions are going to be favored in America, right? Because right there, pluralistic society kind of sounds like, wow, everything's on an even playing field and every religion is going to be treated the same in America. And, in my mind, it's promoting religion too much to begin with, because I'm a separation of church and state guy. But
me too.
it's not that overt yet. But I think it gets
Okay,
there in the
let's
next
move on.
couple paragraphs, right?
Section 2. Excuse me. Oh no. Section 2. It's not wanting to do it. The establishment of Religious Liberty Commission. A. There is hereby established the Religious Liberty Commission. Commission. The commission shall function as follows. The commission shall be composed of up to 14 members appointed by the president. Members of the commission shall include individuals chosen to serve as educated representatives of various sectors of society, including the private sector, employers, educational institutions, religious communities, and states to offer diverse perspectives. Remember that, diverse perspectives on how the federal government can defend religious liberty for all Americans. Uh, the, relig- the president shall designate a chairman and a vice chairman from among the members. The commission shall also include the following ex officio members for such senior officials as those members may denigrate. A, the Attorney General. B, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Remember that fella in his first term that ran HUD? Carson.
Oh yeah, Ben Carson. Yeah.
Yeah. And this Assistant to President for Domestic Policy. Then he goes on to talk about they're going to end the term on July 4th, 2026, which marks the 250th anniversary of American independence. That kind of worries me. But the commission is extended by the president's beyond that, and members shall be reappointed for a 2-year term. And you know he's going to do that. The commission shall produce a comprehensive report. And let's see here. I'm kind of going over this because it's a lot of blah 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 from the guy that does that a lot. Here's something. Uh, Categories shall include the First Amendment rights of pastors, religious leaders, houses of worship, faith based institutions, and religious speakers. The First Amendment rights of teachers, students, military chaplains, service members, employers, and employees, conscious protections of the healthcare field, and concerning vaccines mandates, parents authorized to direct the care, upbringing, and education of their children, including the right to choose religious education, permitting time for voluntary prayer and religious instruction at public schools. Here we go. So yeah, they are definitely taking it into the public field. Hi Janelle, thanks for dropping in. Um, it's gonna get wonkier. The commission shall advise White House faith official and domestic policy council on religious liberty policies of the United States. Uh, Activities shall include permitted by law, recommending steps to secure domestic religious liberty. That sounds a little wonky there. They aren't being paid, they say. Severability, let's go on to that. Section 3. If any provision in this order, or the application of any provision to agency, person, or circumstance is held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and the application of its purpose is to other agencies, persons, and circumstances shall not be affected thereby. So, parse that out.
I don't even know what he's trying to say there. I mean, this is like you said word salad earlier. Like I'm trying to go like where are we going at this point? He's towards first of all, who are the 14 people that are on this commission? Is it truly reflective across a multitude of religious leaders? I mean, do we really? Is a Muslim, a Jew,
We're
Buddhist?
gonna get to that real soon.
Yeah,
Because
or is this?
You're gonna recognize the names like Dr. Oz is on this commission, Ben Carson. But yeah, that's basically the executive order that he put forward. And he did that kind of I think he did it in a flurry when he was sitting at his desk early on in May in his, in his second term. He was just furiously signing executive orders, just going and going and going. And I think that just flew under the radar until it recently came back into the light.
Well, it was clearly written for him, right? So the Project 2025 guys probably had that written, a year ago, ready
Exactly.
to go, right? They want to
Well,
have this commission. They want to cloak it in the terminology of freedoms, but the more they talk, the more they talked about what I would view as like extension of religion into public, the public forum, certainly into, they want to inject it into the schools. That's a clear number one
oh yeah,
target, right? That Betsy
we're gonna put
DeVos
up the
started
Ten
that in the
Commandments.
first administration, right? Defunding public schools by siphoning the dollars towards more private schools. But clearly there's a bigger policy, list of policies that are coming behind this quote religious freedom. And you could already see in there between the lines, the ability of religious leaders and churches to make political statements and maintain their tax exempt status, right? Because that always comes up whenever churches get political, like, hey, they stepped over the line, they should be paying taxes if they're going to function like PACs. And this language basically says that religious leaders, institutions, and churches can function as PACs, because if they're not allowed to, then their freedom of speech is being infringed upon.
Right. Yeah. It's very wonky the way they're wording it, and is someone, somebody, just a natural Christian or any religious person reading that or hearing about that, they might, well, that's bad. They get into the weeds, and the weeds are bad weeds. So we're gonna
Well,
move on.
I don't know if you're gonna pop up I think another link you sent me today. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, that you're gonna put that up, is where it goes from this benign language in Trump's executive order to the more aggressive language that's coming from really the implementers of this strategy, right? The ones who deem America a Judeo-Christian nation, and they start narrowing down or creating a hierarchy of religions, basically, that need to get favored in this country. I don't know if that's something you're going to pop up on the screen,
Yeah,
because
I'm
that's
pulling
where
that
this
up
really,
next.
that's where this turns.
So we get to hear some opinions on the other side of it. And I've actually found another one besides that article in the Missouri trip. What is it? The Missouri Independent. So let's add that. And share the screen again. Okay. I need to take about a 1 minute break. Brock, can you talk for a minute?
I can absolutely talk for a minute.
Okay, I'm going to leave the stage and let you talk.
Okay, you leave the stage. Well, interesting. I'm gonna veer off into like a different aspect of this, because on my podcast we spoke a lot about religion yesterday, and we spoke about, which is rare for us, although Mark talks to me a lot about the Black church and going to church on Sundays, and how he feels the church is kind of like a community center, also a place of not just the spirituality, but coming together as a community, particularly the Black community. I'm not religious. I'm pretty much an atheist. So I was kind of my comment to him was like, that's the best of religion, when it feels like a place of comfort, where people kind of get away from this loneliness epidemic and a place where people can share things. But what we were talking about yesterday specifically to get to like current politics was the Jasmine Crockett, James Tallarico primary down in Texas, which I guess has about a week or 10 days or so until election day, but there's a lot of early voting going on, and the early voting numbers are huge. But I was saying to Mark yesterday that, first of all, I'm a Jasmine Crockett fan, but second of all, my problem with James Tallarico, who apparently has become a darling of the left and is really, very popular in the Democratic Party, is that my problem with him is he's way too forward with his religion, and he's, for my taste, is way too intertwined his political beliefs with his religious underpinnings. And my take on that is like, I don't care what the religion is of a particular politician. And I don't really even care how they came to their policy stances. Like if their faith helped them get to that place, fantastic. If they have no faith, I'm still just going to judge them on the policies and their actions. And I made the comment yesterday, Patty, that I said to Mark, I was like, I didn't care that Joe Biden went to church every Sunday. I think that's great for him, and it gave him solace, and it was an important part of his life, and it maybe helped frame his view of the world. But all I cared about was his view of the world. I didn't care how he got there. I was just going to judge him and how I thought he was as a president and the policies that he put in place, and how, his judgment in decision making as president, not whether it came from a religious background or not. I don't even care to know about whether the candidate has a religious background or not. And P-Dubs, you watched our broadcast yesterday. I was pretty critical of James Tallarico because I think as a politician, he talks way too much about religion. And I'm a very strict proponent of a separation between church and state. So when you alerted me to all this Trump commission stuff that I didn't even notice, I didn't notice the executive order, but I certainly noticed the activities and the policy coming out of the government that has like religious overtones to it. And I find it problematic. Welcome back.
Yeah, I think we were kind of in agreement on
Tallarico.
Tallarico. I like him, but I want to keep Crockett. She's a fighter, and we need her. And I think you were right about Tallarico maybe trying to get into it. Take off slower. Don't go for the big guns yet. Learn more about politics before he jumps right in.
But I also think that talking about your religious beliefs and tying your religious beliefs to policy and talking about certain elements of the scripture and why you feel a certain way on a certain policy issue and debating what's in the Bible is kind of like, to me, that's the game that the religious right has played my whole life. And that's just not how I want politics to function. I don't want people dragging their church into my life and into the laws and regulations that I'm going to have to live my life by. So I've always been averse to that conversation. I've always felt it was part of the Republican Party embraced that. And it's part of why I'm not a Republican, because that language didn't resonate with me. But it looks like, Trump obviously is drilling deeper and deeper into, his, being simpatico with this Christian nationalist religious right. He needs their votes. He needs their support. I guess he wants their money. So I see why he's doing it. Are you muted? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself.
Oh yeah,
He puts they're like, he is fighting against this far right religious faction and saying, I'm right and you're wrong and here's why. But you're right. Uh, we need less of the religion in our state. I don't like it. So I'm all for Crockett. But we'll get into this article I found. The Missouri Independent. Uh, the author is Laurel Birchfield. Very good article. And says you'd be forgiven if among all the scary national and international headlines of the past few weeks, you'd miss the first meeting of the newly formed Religious Liberty Commission. Uh, let's see here. You may not have heard that Trump appointed this commission, which a lot of people hadn't.
Including me. I hadn't, and I think I pay attention to things, and I had not seen this at all.
Yeah, it didn't catch my attention until about 2 weeks ago. I caught it on some show that I watched. And I was like, what the heck? Okay. If religious freedom is something you value, you need to add this to your list of things to follow. Because the first meeting made it clear we are headed towards the end of religious freedom for all in our country. As an atheist, she says it really scares me. We already talked about him announcing this commission during the National Day of Prayer on May 1st, and it's due to run through July 4th of this year. That was May 1st of 2025, I believe. Okay. This commission is one of Trump's many actions to eradicate anti-Christian bias in February. Religious extremists have been messaging around Christian discriminating for decades. They have fabricated a narrative that they were victimized by anyone who believes, lives, loves, or looks different than they do. This effectively scares the public into putting its trust in officials who say they will protect them against the other. We know about the others they pull up. Stop it now. Evidence of these anti Christian offenses that the Commission is meant to investigate is twisted to privilege extremist religious beliefs over the safety and well being of others. Okay. So, yeah, they're saying we're being discriminated against. And what they're talking about is, there was a big backlash to these Christians that sat outside of abortion clinics, for example. Not only just sat outside of them, but did terrible things. Um, I read somewhere today that uh, there was like 20 some of these protesters at the abortion clinic that had done 24 maybe these protesters and pardoned them all. They'd been arrested for their malicious deeds. So it's getting twisted. Trump likes to pardon felons. Let's see here. Okay, I got ahead of myself here. As an example of so called anti Christian offenses, Attorney General Pam Bondi cited the arrest of 23 anti abortion activists who were charged in 2020 with conspiring to storm an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C. Kansans were intimately familiar with the violence directed toward abortion clinics and providers after the assassination of physician George Tiller in 2009, and I think we remember that. And we don't need to look beyond last month's assassination of Minnesota Rep. Melissa Hortman and her husband to see how religious extremists target Planned Parenthood and their supporters instead of understanding this Trump pardon. Instead of understanding this, Trump pardoned all 23 activists in January. So, what do you think of that?
Well, this is a strategy of the right and of Trump, which he's actually really good at, which is start with a lie that works you towards your goal, right? So whether it's voter suppression, whether it's immigration, and now whether it's quote, religious freedom. So you start with a lie. The lie on voting is that like there's all these illegal voting going on. So what do we have to do? Stop mail-in voting. Get the SAVE Act. Have a massive voter suppression effort, right, to address a problem that doesn't exist. Look at the whole immigration and ICE debacle. It was okay. Migrants are overrunning the border. Crime is out of control in America because of all these illegal immigrants. So we have to get this huge ICE masked Gestapo out on the streets to clean up this mess, all under the guise of protecting Americans. And it's the same thing here, right? The same lie that there's an anti-Christian bias. You start with the lie that there's that bias, and then you backfill it with all the actions that protect people from that fake atrocity that's going on. Same playbook goes from policy to policy to policy, and you see it just being played out right here. What anti-Christian biases possibly has there been in America? I mean, it's been basically the dominant religion since day one. And how is that the group that's persecuted against in terms of the religion?
These people on the far right.
What's that?
These religious nut jobs on the far right probably do feel persecuted because their ideas have been rejected soundly by the American people.
Well, it's like the Jan 6ers felt persecuted because they felt like the election was stolen, so they were screwed. So somehow America screwed them, and therefore they had to fix it. And they also got pardoned. So, I mean, Trump has a history
and they're touted as patriots.
Yeah, this is just legalizing and promoting intimidation, which Trump loves, right? So you get a bunch of crazies who are out in front of abortion clinics intimidating people, and yet it's being argued on the right that they have to have the freedom of assembly in their speech, therefore they should be allowed to stand right outside the clinic and yell and scream at everyone as they go in. But what we know is they're only a half step away from violence, and there's always a crazy in the group that's going to take it to that next level, and that intimidation starts making people afraid to go to these abortion clinics, and then therefore they shut down because physical intimidation and physical fear got under the guise of religious freedom.
And I want to talk about the lying a little bit too, because Trump is doing it right now. Every chance he gets in front of a camera, he's saying he's been totally exonerated by the Epstein files. Says it over and over again. Just like when he talked about immigrants, he talked about rapists and murderers and drug dealers. We're awash in them. We're going to get the worst of the worst, the worst of the worst. Turns out there aren't that many worst of the worst. They don't need all this. And it turns out that most days, that's the worst of the worst and handing them over to them. So it was all bullshit.
Always starts with a lie and then gets backfilled with policy. Tariffs, right? We're getting screwed by everyone. America's getting, we're getting ripped off by everyone. It's unfair. It's unfair to us, unfair to America. So we have to put tariffs in place. And then you have the secondary lie. Oh, the other countries are paying the tariff. So like we're we're hurting these other countries and making an even playing field when we know in the end, actually the tariff is ultimately paid for by the consumer. But it's at first paid for by the company that's importing the goods. So, I mean, the Trump playbook, Project 2025 playbook behind them is to start with a lie, start telling that lie over and over, and then backfill with a policy that solves to the lie. And this whole idea that there's religious persecution against Christians in America, I guess, has led to this commission. They're the aggrieved party. They're the one whose rights are being taken away. Therefore, we need school vouchers for Christian schools. We need the 10 Commandments in the hallway. We need, still, tax exemptions for churches that act as political affiliates, and so on and so on. There's even more behind it, right? We need to get rid of abortion, right? We basically worked that all the way to the Supreme Court of the overturning of abortion under the guise of religious freedom. It's reshaping America, right, Patty? It's scarier than just, Pledge of Allegiance and 10 Commandments in the school. I always view this as a reshaping of American society.
It's exactly what they're trying to do, I believe. And the one thing I did think of, though, do you think this repeating the lie of being exonerated by the Epstein files will fly? Because
I don't think it will fly, but it's a justification for Pam Bondi to not disclose any more of the files, to say, hey, it's game over. He's been exonerated. A lot of other people were caught up in it, but not Trump, and we need to move on from it. So it's the only stance he can take.
Come out.
Me and my partner Mark Hayes debate this all the time. He told me a year ago, he's like, these Epstein files are not going to go away. And I didn't believe him. And he's been proven to be right. I think Trump's problem with the Epstein files is that too many people in MAGA world got convinced from his first lie that it was the Clintons and it was going to be all Democrats in there. And it was all the other people that were the bad guys. And he got MAGA riled up to want to see it, playing into pedophilia and all these other fears, so they won't let go of it. If it was just the left that wanted to see it, he could just argue it's partisan. His problem on the Epstein files is it's his own followers that want to see it, because his lie worked with them. QAnon, right? The QAnon crazies were convinced that it's Tom Hanks, Hillary Clinton, and, I don't know, Denzel Washington, who were running a pedophile ring.
The funny thing about that is I saw something this week where it had come out that the whole QAnon shit that was coming out about the pedophiles and the Republican, the Clintons, that actually came from people inside, probably Steve Bannon. I'm not swearing to that because I can't remember, but it came from inside their group of people. They put this lie out there in QAnon, and it's kind of blowing up in their face now.
Yeah, remember they got one guy to go and brought a gun and started shooting up that pizza parlor in Washington D.C. or something, right? They really had their people convinced. Yeah, they had their people convinced they had to go out and save the children from this pedophile ring. And
they were eating children in the basement, and there was no basement at this pizza parlor. So, yeah.
But they did such a good job of convincing their followers that this was a big problem that now they can't convince them to let go of it.
And they always accuse us of what they're doing. So now that it's falling in their lap, and multiple cabinet members were involved, and wealthy people and bankers and people in head at the head of universities, even, are drug into this. And so I think this whole thing is blowing up on him, and I think we need to just keep talking about the Epstein files for
Yeah,
sure.
the next leg of it is the fact that so many European countries now have created commissions to look into the Epstein files because, I mean, now that Prince Andrew's been basically, quasi indicted, um, they're they're also worried about like a lot of the international financial laws that have potentially been broken and the money laundering and all this funds that were shuffled around and the banks that looked the other way and or were complicit. So the European countries are starting to take a deep dive and they're subpoenaing, asking Pam Bondi for unredacted versions of the Epstein files for their investigations. And I have no idea how the U.S. / Pam Bondi is going to justify not sharing that information with foreign countries that are requesting it for their allies, what we've always thought of as allies, right? NATO countries that are doing their own investigations. So how is Pam Bondi going to justify saying, no, you can't see these files?
These people will find a way, Brock. You heard that lawyer tell Wexner he thought he was not going to be heard. He leaned over to Wexner and he says, "I'll fucking kill you if you answer any more questions with more than 5 words." What kind of lawyer says he's going to fucking kill his client?
The lawyer's worried
I
about
mean,
some
really.
serious shit coming out. That's
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I'm
okay.
going to answer that question about who's on this board. The commission is made up of almost entirely of known right-wing Christians, including Texas Lieutenant Governor and Chair Dan Patrick, former HUD Secretary and Vice Chair Ben Carson, son of Billy Graham, disgraced evangelist, Franklin Graham, former Miss California Carrie Prejean Bowler, lawyers from Project 2025, affiliated organizations such as First Liberty Institute and Ethics and Public Policy Center, and right wing TV and radio hosts such as Dr. Phil. A bishop, a cardinal, and a rabbi round out the members in what they tout as a diverse representation of American faiths. So we're leaving a whole lot of people out of that commission, aren't we?
I mean, I'm Jewish. They found a rabbi. Okay. They found a rabbi to go along with them. You can find someone in every community who's willing to go along. But that's a pretty right wing lineup that you just spelled out there, which doesn't surprise me because I figured that's the whole point of this commission is to promote Christian nationalism as quote a national religion. That's my read on this entire venture.
Yeah. Uh, Says the commission will hold several more hearings over the next year to investigate the tired list of Christian nationalist priorities, including so called parental rights and school choice and prayer at schools. Expected. The other key priority voiced throughout the day was to attack the LGBTQ community and especially trans kids. Go figure. They've already been doing that.
Mm-hmm. That always comes along with this.
Yeah. During the first hearing, the real objectives of the commission became abundantly clear. One, they're going to rewrite history to make American Christian nation. A key tenet of Christian nationalist policy ideology is America was found as a Christian nation and must return to secure, secure our future success. They the commission repeatedly embraced this very narrow interpretation of key historical documents, including writings by the founders and the Free Exercise Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Both commissioners and witnesses denied the principle of church-state separation and secular government.
That's a pretty serious topic to be refuting when I always viewed that as like one of the most underlying fundamental tenets of the American political system was the separation of church and state. For the fact that this commission is basically, pushing towards refuting that as the basis of the American political system.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty big deal. Seems like a pretty big deal to me.
It's like I went back and found early founders who had written skewed versions of what it was supposed to mean, and they're touting those versions. The separation of church and state. Remake the courts with courageous Christian nationalists. Boy, have we seen that.
Yeah. Check that box.
Yeah. The court, specifically the U.S. Supreme Court, will be subject of many recommendations in the final commission's report. So they're going to make recommendations to the Supreme Court. The commission discussed which cases should be overturned, how Trump's administration can assist with that, and how to make sure pesky state and local courts don't get in the way. The Supreme Court has been chipping away at church and state separation for the past decade with crucial victories this term, but for this commission, it isn't happening fast enough. So yeah, we've kind of seen that, haven't we, Brock?
Yeah, it's been a slow drip. But, reading between the lines there, you'd have to believe gay marriage is on the chopping block, right? That'll be one of the recommendations that they tell the court that they should be overturning. And then there'll be a court case right behind it. And I can't imagine not seeing that on the Supreme Court docket in 2026,
Yeah.
if not maybe 2027. But
we're gonna have to win the midterms, and I was saying it when Joe won that he needed to add some justices to that court to equalize it somewhat, but he didn't. So moving on. Promote all parts of American culture, politics, and public life again, but only if it's their version of Christianity. So there we go. Expert witnesses referred to a divine truth, the existence of Judeo-Christian God, as the foundation for moral, happy, and politically good society. Many devout Americans hold similar beliefs about their faith, but also recognize that government should not prioritize one religion in a pluralistic society. Not only does this push minority faiths and non-believers such as myself, that's the author of this, that lost my feed because I stopped. Anyway, go back. Sorry. It goes on to say government should not prioritize, said that. It asserts that one religion, Christianity, must be imposed on every person to create and maintain this good society. So yeah. So in a world where we are facing very real threats of our physical, mental, and financial health, why did I spend 5 excruciating hours listening to a commission whose only job is to make recommendations? The obvious answer is because these individuals were hand-selected for holding a worldview that advances the Christian nationalist agenda and threatens any religious belief that fall outside this ideology. The uncomfortable truth is that this rhetoric justifies hate crimes and dissolution of rights for women and minorities as a new platform with the divine weight of presidential approval. And as lifelong atheist, I'm scared that we're looking at the end of the church and state separation and the rise of theocracy weaponizing religion against people who don't fall in line. And I think she's right. I gotta say, this religious stuff really freaks me out. This is really, hi squirrel girl. It really freaks me out, and so I was really surprised. I wanted to go down this whole thing, but I really wanted to become aware of what this Religious Freedom Commission is actually up to.
Yeah, when we see it when it bubbles, up into a policy proposal or a Supreme Court decision. So I didn't realize there was a commission and this kind of mandate sitting beneath the surface, and they'd actually have a group of people that meet and are writing these recommendations. So it's scarily more organized than I thought, although Project 2025 is pretty organized, right? This seems like an adjunct to Project 2025, where they're taking that doctrine and now figuring out what policies need to be either implemented in or laws that need to be attacked. How do you stop? The question comes down to, okay, how do you stop it when you've given Trump presidency as well as, in essence, control over a legislative branch and an extremely friendly right-wing Supreme Court?
Well, I hope that we have some people in government still that believe in the hi squirrel girl. I hope that we have some politicians that still believe in the separation of church and state. And I think just like everything that we've been pushing back on, if we can get protesters to push back on this in large number, that could be helpful because they don't like it when we don't like them. So I don't know what else. I think we have to win back the House and hopefully the Senate too, and we can maybe put the reins on this madness, until we can. But we have to put some good people in, some fighters.
I gotta believe that this is very much a minority movement, right? That this wouldn't poll well, that the American people in aggregate do not want more religion in their politics and in their laws. Do you think that's fair?
Not.
I mean, yeah. So therefore, I think the left, the resistance, progressives have to message more and more, in essence, play into people's fear and flip it over and talk about the fear of allowing too much religion into our laws, and that religion has gotten out of its lane, and that separation of church and state is fundamental to America.
And the only reason we're dealing with this shit, Brock, is because Trump wanted their money. And so they donated to him bigly and just said, okay, I'll give you a lane. I think that's the main reason we're in this mess, because I don't think Trump believes in any of this stuff.
No, he doesn't believe in anything, but he does believe in his own self-interest. So I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, he'll play. He needed their votes. He wanted their money, and the money flow, and then religious leaders tap into their followers who just keep funding them, and subsequently Trump. So self-fulfilling. I just feel like we have to just harshly message against this because I think most people in the country want a clear separation of church and state. And the more they're made aware of all these different aspects of where this organized religious right movement is policy by policy trying to strip away the separation, that if more people are aware of it, more people would act on it, would vote against it. But like me, I didn't even know this commission had been formed in May, right? It just slipped by. This is beneath the radar because there's so much noise at the top, right? This doesn't make headlines because there's such
Yeah.
more sensationalistic stuff going on. This can slip through quietly.
Yeah, you're right. And that's kind of why I'm doing the things I'm doing now, is I'm trying to catch things that are slipping by without, even a peep. And there's a lot of stuff to catch, believe it or not. Okay, let's go on here. American Atheists just announced that it will no longer be hosting the 26th World Humanist Congress in Washington, D.C., because the Trump administration's actions have created an environment that not only incompatible with values, but also inhospitable to members of our global secular community. They fear for the safety of their attendees because they are no longer a country welcoming of visitors, and especially not visitors who fall outside specific Christian identity. But it's not just secular community who should be worried right now. Every person who has found within their faith the mission to love thy neighbor, to feed the hungry, protect the vulnerable, and embrace the stranger should be fighting for the sanctity of their beliefs. The members of Religious Liberty Commission will not be including these priorities in their final report, and you will not find a place for your faith in their new America. So that's the end of that article. And again, I believe she's right. They're excluding so many uh, different religions, and even atheists can't be there, because it's just not hospitable to them, and
But
maybe
the
not
fact
even
that
safe.
that atheist group won't even meet because they fear for
Yeah,
their safety is that intimidation that we talked about at like the abortion clinics. It's that same intimidation factor, um, and inflicting fear upon others. And if they're not going to meet, then they're not going to organize. And if don't organize, then they're not going to be as strong a counterforce. So in that
right.
respect, intimidation wins, and that's disappointing. I would wish that they would have just moved their meeting out of DC, maybe move it to somewhere friendlier, like Chicago or Minneapolis, where they know that there's a contingent of people that might look out and protect them. But I get it. I get why they don't want to meet and be in one place, because it could get stormed by 100 ICE agents and get whisked
Well,
away.
their first four meetings were private. I mean, nobody knew about it till just recently, I think. Nobody knew much about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're hiding in the closet of
Plain sight.
religion. So that was the end of that article. Um, I thought it was a very good article. It explained a lot about this commission. I do have a follow up thing with Project 2025, and it's pretty good. I found this later, and I didn't get this sent to you, Brock, but I'll put it up. It's not as long. Okay. How Project 2025 Threatens Religious Freedom and Democracy. This is from the in Interfaith Alliance, and I haven't heard of them, but um, this I found interesting how all of this ties into Project 2025. Religious freedom is the bedrock of our democracy. Project 2025 extremist objectives strike directly at the heart of this fundamental freedom. That is why it's so important for people of diverse faiths and beliefs nationwide to understand what Project 2025 is and mobilize to stop it. Uh, Project 2025 is a far right blueprint put forward over 100 conservative groups by over 100 conservative groups to dramatically reshape the country, undermine religious freedom, impose their own dangerous agenda. If a candidate aligned with their goals wins the presidency in 2025, which I don't know if he's exactly aligned, but he sure likes to take their money. This agenda poses a direct existential threat to our shared vision of the United States as an equitable democracy where people of faith, all faiths, backgrounds, and identities can thrive and make decisions according to their own beliefs. By implemented, many of the provisions of Project 2025 would dramatically restrict the fundamental rights and freedoms of Americans, including religious freedoms, reproductive rights, freedoms, and LGBTQ rights. So that's kind of covered in this lady's newsletter that she wrote. It's stating the same kind of things, which I agree with. I think we're in. It says here, religious communities are uniquely positioned to fight back and protect our democracy. That's by Reverend Paul Brandeis, Russian Bush. Well, we kind of know what Project 2025 is, so I kind of am going to skip over this. I think everybody here knows who I'm talking about, and I will do a show on Project 2025 eventually. So, how would Project 2025 impose nationalist Christian nationalist agenda that restricts religious freedoms and other fundamental rights? Uh, Project 2025 is informed by an overreaching assumption that U.S. law, government, and policy should be informed by Christian nationalist teaching and moralities. It states that it seeks for families to have freedom above all pursue religious devotion and spirituality. One of the core goals is to secure our God given individual rights to live freely. It is clear that the initiative defaults to a conservative Christian understanding of God, everywhere it states that God ordained the Sabbath as the day of rest, referring exclusively to Sunday as opposed to the days of rest held by other religions. So there's a pushback there. I guess you can only worship on Sundays now.
But isn't it interesting that the whole Christian nationalist movement, which Trump is, leading the charge for, the whole premise there was religious freedom. Yet it's all these other faith leaders that are concerned about the Christian nationalist movement taking away all of their freedoms, right? And that's where the lie underlies the policies, and it's just antithetical to the viewpoint that all these other faith leaders have, right? So
Yeah.
one person's freedom is another person's oppression. It's just the lie triggers the policy, and then the policy, in essence, intimidates and makes secondary at best all other religions. I mean, I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. I told you I'm really basically an atheist, but I still consider myself Jewish. Why would I think that I live in a Christian nationalist nation? Like, why would I think that? Why would I accept that? Why? How would that make sense to me? If you're Muslim, how would it make sense to you that you live in a Christian nation? Like, who gets to decide and dictate that to you? I guess when Trump is president and he's got Project 2025 behind him, he gets to decide in his mind.
Well, the thing that boggles my mind is how do they think that they're going to get our country, our free country, and the people, we the people, to go along with all this? Are they going to lock everybody up? Is that why they're buying all those concentration camps? You know,
I think they can bully us into it
yeah,
and
I
make us
think
too
they're
afraid to
wrong.
speak out, and therefore might makes right, and their way becomes the norm. They don't think we're going to fight.
I think that they're going to be sorely surprised. I don't think they thought Minnesotans would fight either. Look how that turned out.
I hope you're right.
Okay. Okay, it says here they're also seeking to impose intense restrictions on reproductive rights and the rights of LGBTQ people, and to further blur key boundaries and distinctions between religion and government, showing no regard for how diverse faith traditions approach key questions about reproductive health and sexual and gender identity. It adopts one particular Christian theological, political or worldview as the default to drive a wide range of government policy decisions impacting the lives of tens of millions of Americans. I'd venture to say more than 100 million at least, maybe more than that, maybe 60%, which is, you know,
Almost 200 million.
huh?
Said almost 200 million, 60%.
So I don't think they have enough detention centers for 200 million people, but don't
Not
quote
yet.
me on that. They're trying. They're
Yeah.
trying. They're getting resistance about these centers too. So we just have to keep fighting them on every level. You know, everything they're trying to do. So why is it so important for people of faith to lead the charge against Project 2025 and the threat it poses to religious freedom? The organizers of this extreme agenda like to present themselves as champions of religious freedom, guided by faith. In truth, their plans would suppress religious freedom and diversity, forcing diverse faiths, people of diverse faiths and beliefs to have their choices and rights increasingly restricted by one particular religious worldview. Advanced by the government, most people of this faith in this country reject the type of doctrines and policies promoted by 2025. And it's critical that we organize and speak out. So, yeah, maybe we need some more people of faith piling on. And I know there are some, you know, people out there doing it, but that needs to be organized and pushed back on really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have to push back. I would love to see more people of faith join the fight and make more noise and be louder about their concerns.
Mm-hmm. It talks about 2025 abortion pills pose the single greatest threat to unborn children in post-Roe world. Abortion pills, the mifepristone, as it's so called. And we've been fighting back on that and having some wins as well. Oh dear, what did I just do? Let me see if I can go back. Crap, I clicked on something. Let's see here if I can find it again.
It's a nice artistic back screen you have there, purple.
There, I found it. Now I have to scroll down. Sorry about that. Got a little click happy. We were talking about abortion pills. There we are. Okay. Calls for the FDA to revoke approval for the use of the abortion pill would end the mandate for insurance to cover the week after abortion pill and seek to use a long defunct law to prosecute people who send abortion pills by the mail. And we saw that there was a lawsuit or an arrest warrant sent from Texas trying to arrest this woman in, I think, Chicago or maybe New York, a doctor who sent the mifepristone to someone in Texas. And the state just said, no, you can't arrest her. She didn't break our laws. So that was, fighting back.
Yeah, we had a. I'm in New York, and we had a. New York was one of the states where Kathy Hochul, the governor, was like, "No way" on that, and pushed back.
Yeah, it was Kathy Hochul. Yeah. So we're, and okay, let's see. They want to prevent women from traveling to states where abortion is legal to obtain one, and would cut federal funds to states that refuse to comply. Of course, they would, because if you don't comply, we're going to cut funds to your states. The thing about that is, and they do this all across the board. You live in a red state or a blue state, but you're a Republican and you voted for Trump. They're still going to cut funding for things you need. So come on, Republicans, wake up. After you crack me up. Okay. By limiting access to reproductive care, Project 2025 seeks to force adherence to one narrow religious viewpoint. The majority of Americans believe that people should be able to make healthcare decisions in accordance with their own conscience, not the religious views of a few powerful. And, we saw that just blow the hell up when they overturned Roe versus Wade. And I think this is when I started screaming, add some more people to that court, because it's so lopsided. We have to fix the Supreme Court if we get back in power. We just have to. These people are not trustworthy. They talk about targeting the rights and safety of LGBTQ people. Takes particular aim at transgender communities, referring to transgenderism as an ideology and outrageously characterizing health for transgender youth as child abuse. And they make all these outrageous lies about this because they're saying, oh, you could send your kid to school a boy and he might come back a girl, and
Yeah,
that's
absurd.
just not happening.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think they're performing any transgender surgeries until you're an adult.
And
So,
certainly not in the schools, right? As if it wouldn't even happen in a hospital setting. Like the lies are so fantastical, but the followers eat it up. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin in a little bit here, Patty.
okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up.
And also, I'm on the East Coast. We're getting a little blizzard tonight. We got ourselves a little blizzard.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Might be
We're
shut
going to
in
go
for
ahead and
like
stop
48
it on
hours.
that.
What's that?
That was quite a lot. I tell you, this religious stuff just freaks me right the hell out.
Yeah, once you
And
start learning more about it and seeing how it underlies so many of the policy positions have their origins with these religious doctrines that sit underneath Project 2025. And, on my podcast, which is Two Men in Black and White, we would also then look at not only are these like religion driven, but they're all about white people also. it's also about white
Mm,
supremacy is tied into it because it's not just religion, right? It's kind of the white Christianity, right? Never talks about black Christianity and such. So there's
right.
also a lot of racism that's embedded into these policies as well, and certainly the
And
thinking
Jolie, will you?
behind them. There's also a lot of misogyny, right? Because religion has a lot of misogyny. So the policies that
Yeah,
flow from these religious based thinkings also tend to be extremely male dominated. So it gets us back to that
yeah.
same place.
And you look at religions like Catholics, they have a big history of abusing children, and I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think you have to look at religion and say separation of church and state. And if you're in a religion that's criming on children, we're going to come after you. Thanks, Jolie. That's what I was going to ask you to do, to put up Brock's link to his channel.
Oh,
And
is
Brock,
there any questions on the chat or any?
yeah, I was going to do a question.
Okay. Yeah,
Anybody have
but
a
my
question for
podcast, I
Brock
don't know.
before he goes?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't know. Did you say Shelly was on the chat? Shelly, thank you for posting it. It's the number two men in black and white. We're on YouTube as well.
Um, any questions in the chat for Brock? We'll wait a second. And Brock, I want you to know you can feel free to share my stream on your channel, or on, if you guys want to share this so they can see you in a different venue. Um,
Is this okay? You can maybe ping it to me offline. I didn't know that if it was saved, if you saved your streams. But yeah, I'd love to get a copy of it.
yeah, Chuck or John was here earlier. I couldn't really pay much attention to the chat because it was very intense
Yeah,
reading.
you got a lot of data, a lot of information.
Yeah, but I do love all the chatters. I think we've had a bunch here tonight. A couple names I don't recognize, and some I do. Yeah. Um, it was a really fun. I'm really so grateful for you to come on here and do this with me.
I appreciate you inviting
It's
me on
nice to
and
have
bringing
another
like a new
perspective.
bringing a new topic that I had not been focused on, and we've been podcasting for a year, and I don't think we ever touched on the topic in that whole year. So, talk about a serious topic that like had quote either been under the radar or we had just been blind to. This whole
Yeah.
underlying religiosity that seems to be out of control is not something I focused on. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And I love coming on here. I love getting in front of a different audience and hearing a different kind of point of view and focus. So thank you.
So you'd be willing to come back?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I'll find another good topic and we'll
All right.
dive
You give me
into
the
it.
topic. I'll prep for it.
I will. Next
All
time
right.
I'll give you more notice.
I gotta start stretching out. I'm gonna be doing a lot of shoveling tomorrow.
Okay. Work it. Work it.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been great spending time with you and your audience today.
Thank you, Brock. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Yeah, he's got another blizzard coming in. DPD. I usually do a Sunday stream, and sometimes I do it at 9 and sometimes at 8. And I always send out a message. But like and subscribe, and you should get the notifications about when I'm going to be here. If it's going to vary, but Sundays, and sometimes I throw in an extra one during the week. Just depends on the week. I'm kind of new to this. I've only been doing it for 6 months. I have an announcement to make. Yesterday, I reached 100 subscribers, a milestone. Woohoo! So thank you to all my subscribers out there. And 9 Central, yes, Jolie. I don't know where you are, uh, what was the DPD? I did come on an hour early today because of Brock. Let's remove that. And put me back here. Yeah, I came on an hour early today because Brock needs to get to bed at a decent hour, and I kept him longer than I thought I would. But I had all this material, and it took a while to get through it all. So there's that. And 100 subscribers. I don't know if you remember me last week. I was talking about a group called Vote Writers. Janelle, or Jolie, can you get that link to Vote Writers? I contacted them because I wanted to talk to them about issues I might have depending on if the laws in voting change here. Now, Vote Writers will only help you during with current laws. If, like in my case, if I have to turn up an ID that matches my birth certificate, I'm going to need an attorney. And if it changes, thanks, DPD. And thank you for the sub and being here for the show. I hope you enjoyed it. So anyway, Vote Writers is a group that you can go to with help if you find out that you're going to have trouble adhering to their voter laws. Josh, are you leaving? Um, I looked into volunteering for them. The only thing they need right now is people to send out letters, and you have to pay for the postage and the envelopes and handwrite the letters. I don't think I can afford to do that right now. So if you would donate $2 to my GoFundMe and help raise a little money for that, I will be willing to go ahead. And if you can't do that, maybe you can go volunteer yourself. Vote Writers. Let's see. I think that's all I had that I wanted to talk about tonight. And I'm really tired and my dog needs to go pee. So I'm going to close the stream for tonight. Thank you all so much. Remember to be kind and helpful to people around you. We're in for a fight, but we're a bunch of tough cookies. And so I'm here and I'm ready, and you're here, so you must be ready too. And I hope everybody has a great night. I want to thank Jolie for modding. She's great about putting up links and doing all the things. And everything went blurry there for a second. You guys all have a great night, and I'll see you next week. You can find that link on my channel too, if you look it up. All right, everybody have a good night. Bye.